Alright, so I want to share this while I'll still have the toy. And this may be useful for somebody who already has Akai MIDIMIX controller or for somebody who is looking for an 8-channel mixer style MIDI controller to map something such as Mixmaster Junior from MindMeld, or for somebody else who has a different controller but could not make LEDs to turn on with the MIDI mapping. And I want to start out by giving a shout out to Paul Pico, who found a way to control Akai APC Mini LED lights via MIDI. Thank you so much, Paul. We are really building up on that. And let's really go back to our mapping and controller. So for this intro, to make those LED lights turn on and then off as they are doing right now, what I'm using is the CV to MIDI module and 4FO from Boga Audio. Let me actually remove cables and initialize both modules. So with CV to MIDI, I want to select a MIDI mix, and then with the 4FO of Boga Audio, we want a sine wave out, which is set by default, and then the first LFO out is going to go into volts per octave input of CV to MIDI. So it is going to scan through all of the notes. Second LFO out is going to go into gate in, so it is basically going to trigger buttons, and we want to phase this out by 67 degrees because LFOs have to be running at a slightly different time, and this third LFO out is going to go into velocity. And we already are getting LEDs flashing, and that is quite fast, so we want to decrease those 2 hertz to about 0.5 hertz, which is going to give us half a pulse per second. So we will get that beautiful flashing effect. Right, so this is it. Let me wait for the LEDs to turn off and we'll proceed with the mapping. Okay, once again. Okay, now that is done. Let me get rid of all those modules, and for further mapping, let me actually add some lights so we can see the controller. All right, we will grab first a MIDI module from Stoermelder, so we will get all the MIDI messages in case you are interested in them. Here I'm going to select MIDIMIX and leave it to monitor all MIDI channels. And then we shall grab a MIDI-CAT also from Stoermelder. And at first I thought that the MIDI-CAT has 2 windows. So first is for MIDI in, and second window is not actually used to map a second controller. Second window is actually used for the MIDI out, so it is actually sending a MIDI data back for the controller, and that is actually a way to make LEDs turn on with the controller, such as MIDIMIX. So let's really select MIDIMIX in the first window. I'm gonna leave it at all channels, and later we can select the channel one if we wanna optimize the CPU usage, but it's probably not that much really. And also let's really select MIDIMIX in the second window and start our mapping. Let me zoom out a little bit. So I'm gonna click on that at the bottom window to start mapping and start mapping our faders. And this is quite easy. So first, then I move fader second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and then master fader also done. I'm also going to click somewhere to stop a mapping. Now we want to map mute buttons to mute buttons of the Mixmaster Junior, and then we want to map those record buttons to solo buttons of the Mixmaster Junior. Now, the intended way to actually use mute buttons on the MIDI mix is to actually press solo and then press over those or go over those mute buttons, but you actually have two rows of buttons over here, but we are going to use uh, what is available just by actually pressing less buttons and maximizing the output, if you can say so. So I'm going to start a mapping, click on the bottom window and then go over the mute buttons. So first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. That is done. And let's also map record arm buttons to solo buttons of the Mixmaster Junior. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. Done. Now the problem is that our LEDs are now turned on. Let me decrease the light just a little bit. LEDs are turned on, but if, as you can see, if I press buttons, they are not really toggling what we want on the Mixmaster Junior. And to fix that, we actually have to go to the first mapping of the first button. Give me a moment. So yeah, here it is, C sharp. This is the first one, and right click it, and by default, so it has a set an input mode for note, and by default it is set to momentary, and we want to select toggle plus velocity because we need a velocity input and then velocity feedback as well. And also we want a send note on and velocity 0, and we will have to do that for all of our mapped buttons. So 2, 3, 4, that is 5, 6, done, 7, also 8, done for mute buttons. And now also let's go over solo buttons, the same. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and finally eighth. Okay, let's check if it's working the way we want. Okay, we are getting our buttons toggled on the Mixmaster Junior, but LEDs are still on. Let's go through them once again and see if LEDs are going to turn off. Fantastic, LEDs are turning off. And let me quickly go through them again. So everything is working the way it really should. So with the LEDs, that could be really helpful with the live performance. Also, this particular solo button, which acts as a switch for the row of mute buttons, this does not have a built-in LED, so don't really try to make this one turn on. I mean the LED, there is no LED beneath it. Also, you can map something to bank left and bank right. And you cannot map anything to send all button. So what it does, if you actually take a look at medium on, if you press send all, it just sends all the buttons and all the faders and basically all the MIDI messages from the controller. So that is used for some digital audio workstations which could grab a controller from that kind of MIDI input. So that is done pretty much it, and I'm not really going to map any rotary knobs, even though we can do that, but I think that is quite easy to do, and they don't really have an LEDs for them, and we don't really have to dig with that. But usually when I want to map something after I already have my MIDI mix mapped, I just hide a MIDI-CAT somewhere so it doesn't get in the way. And to map rotary knobs, I would take a MIDI map from VCV, so it's different, and that will only contain and not interfere with that complex setup. So here I will also select a MIDI mix, and if I select a mapping, I can maybe map a pen knob on the first channel, just like this, so it's working. Then maybe map a second one. Now this also MIDI map from the VCV base works in a little bit funky way, so you have to actually deselect the mapping process, otherwise it is waiting for you to map more knobs to the same controller input. So you have to press really somewhere to stop and then start again, maybe to map this one. So yeah, there you have it, a way to map uh, Akai MIDIMIX controller with working LEDs using the wonderful modules from Stoermelder. Thank you so much for providing us with such a tools, so we can really have some fun. So hope you could grab something useful out of this, and thank you for watching.